Welcome to the No Fear podcast and the No Fear live broadcast. I'm your host, Tony Blauer. If you're into mindset training, performance psychology, personal development, you'll dig this new format. No Fear Live is a unique broadcast, and it's different from the No Fear podcast. We decided to go live because we wanted to create the opportunity to interact with people like you all over the world, where anyone can log in and ask questions, and in some cases, you may even get invited into the show. The great thing about the live broadcast is that it's much more personal for the listener. That's you. Remember, self-defense isn't always about a confrontation with someone else. The first and most important fight is winning the one inside your head. Hey guys, Coach B here, and as luck would have it, we have a little bit of a technical difficulty here, and I'm going to play another video of Nick while we try to get him on here. Check this out, and it's pretty badass. Hopefully this works beautifully.
This is inevitable. In every person's life, there comes this moment where everything you knew, the foundation of your life, changes. And that creates a cluster of just issues within our own psyche, our own lives. Everything around us just is so different. What do we do about it? Where do we go? Who are we? If you're not anticipating change, if you're not ready for it, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to cope with it? What will you do? My name's Nick Koumalatsos, and I wrote a book called The Excommunicated Warrior. This book is about my transition out of the military. But after several years of working with people all over the United States and the messages flowing in through social media, I realized that this is not a veteran issue, this is a human being issue. So through this, I outlined 7 stages of transition that people go through when any big life change happens, and then what to do about getting back up to the top of your mountain, becoming successful.
Dude, welcome, buddy. How are you, man?
I'm great, man. Who's that long-haired hippie on there?
Right? What the heck is that, man? When did you cut your hair?
After the cops raided my gym and we started doing like interviews with like Fox News and everybody, was like, man, I look like a freaking weirdo. But I was just, before all this happened, I was just out there living my dream and, being a Jack and Steel, trying to make some money and just be a hippie. But they sucked me in, Tony.
You got it. You wear suits now. You got your hair cut.
Yeah, there's a local. He was an immigrant and from Venezuela, and he came here and started doing jiu-jitsu. John Uzgadagi. Now he's in public office here in North Carolina, and he said, "You know what they did? They radicalized you."
Huh?
He's like, they radicalized you, but for the opposition. And I was like, yeah, that's true. They did. They woke me up. I was just chilling, doing my own thing.
So listen, I have a confession because we met at a couple of the events, the Modern Night, the Squire, and we've known of each other through, we've got mutual friends and stuff. And I know your background from your bio, but in preparation for this talk, I went a little bit deeper. By the way, you're standing in a suit on your new website, so you are radicalized. But when I did that private thing for you for one of your clients whose son was having that issue, and I did that private no fear thing, and then for a couple of weeks after, anytime the topic of fear came up, you gave a shout out to me, you threw in quotes, and you went what I considered beyond and above and beyond the call of duty. Like most people, it's the law of reciprocity. Hey, we help each other out. But like, you were going deep and you were quoting me and remembering, and I'm like that's really neat. And then I started digging into stuff, and you've been talking about fear for years.
Yeah.
You like 5 years ago, I think, or 3 or 5 years ago, you released like a long form video just on fear. And I was like, holy shit, now I got it, because you've been living with it, embracing it, integrating it into all of your evolution and teaching. And so I feel like I'm just going to sit back here and let you talk for a fucking hour. But I thought that was so cool. I didn't know that.
Well, it shot you actually. I think I recommended your course to some people. Oh yeah, I did a Q&A on like Instagram or something. And I recommended the No Fear, which, if you're following this, hopefully you guys have all given him his money and taken the course because it's excellent. But it took you back, and I think that's one of the problems with. I think it's one of the problems with our society is, like you said, there's this what's the word, quid pro quo mentality with people, and I don't know, man. To me, it's kind of gross. Like there's just there's enough good and money to go around. There's no need to, like, if you've got something good, well, then I'm just gonna freaking put it out there. Like it doesn't. I don't lose anything. I think everybody's so afraid to lose something. And
scarcity mindset.
Yeah, it's right. Exactly, a scarcity mindset. And I actually have the book right here because I was just teaching about it. In 2018. I did some real deep diving on what my mission was. And I challenge everybody, if you don't know what your personal, and I'm not talking about your business mission, like you as a human being, what is your freaking purpose on this planet? What are you here to do? And in 2018, I was recommended a book, and through that book, I've developed what my personal mission statement was.
What book?
It has a different cover now, but where will you be in 5 years?
Okay.
And it's like a children's book. Like it has big letters. You know what I mean? Like it's like pictures, and it's just like little stupid stuff like this. You know what I mean? Like anyway, so it's not very complicated. So even I could read it. Even a Marine can read it. But it gets you to, and I don't really believe in the whole where will you be in 5 years. Because we've known each other for a minute, and every 5 years is completely different. I wouldn't know. 5 years ago.
I'm with you on that. If we could pivot just for a quick second, but I want you to go back to that, because there's still a lot of truth to the where we be. Like what are your aspirations? What are your dreams? What's your
your vision?
Passion, your vision. And but I've been asked that, forever. I started my business in 1980, and I get asked by whether it was an accountant or a friend of the family's, and what's your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan? And I'm like, I have no fucking idea. And I never have, and I never liked it. But that's just me. But I've seen it work for other people. It's just a weird thing. I think it's having the self-awareness to know that you operate at a different wavelength or something.
I'm committed to the journey.
Right.
I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to the work. Like I don't know. I can't be tied to the results. The results are, I think you said that at one of the Squire programs. The results are the results. I'm committed to getting there. Whatever there is, I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to put 100% in. And the results are the results. I'm not tied to the results. I'm tied to the journey throughout all of it. But anyway, so that book's not necessarily more about where will you be in 5 years. I think it's tying more into your purpose. And so in 2018, I read that, and what it did was it got me to ask questions about myself and what I was passionate about it. And through that book, and I wasn't even doing this work back then, Tony. Through that book, I wrote out my mission, my purpose is to inspire, educate, and motivate others to live a more healthier and successful life. And I sat back and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I wasn't even doing that.
Right. That's cool.
But by doing that and knowing that and writing it down, it led me down this road. It just kind of, it guided me in going, I'm more passionate about this. And it gave me more of an azimuth or questions to ask. Does this align with my purpose? Because if it doesn't, it's not going to bring me joy. It's not going to make me happy. But when it does, when I answer yes, I go all in.
Right.
And which led me to where I am today, which we're doing what I'm doing today, which I'm stoked about.
Right. The part of that, it popped in my head, and I meant to jot it down, was talk a little bit about, and everyone talks about this, but you're a fun guy to listen to because you've been through so much and you're developing so much as an entrepreneur. But the distinction for people between, or this is what I was thinking when you said, like, the destination's the destination, the journey, you got to be committed to the journey. And along that, you might get a flat tire on the journey as a metaphor. You might get lost, but then get found because you went the wrong way. And you go, I'm going to get out of the Marine Corps and I'll probably just get a job as a contractor because that's what I know how to do. And I'll just do that. And then suddenly, you've got like an organic hair and skincare line where, like, if you had told somebody, while you were on a mission downrange, when I get out, I'm going to make hair products, like, you might have got beaten up there by, by your fellow Marines there. Yeah. But I'll let you get into all of that because it's, from being I don't know if you have a name for it. I hate the name Masterminds. I hate the mentor, just because it's overused, right? Yeah. I like referring to people as a mentor, but I feel like an idiot if I say I mentor people.
Well, it's because there's a ton of people out there that are frauds. They don't live it. Like, I recently found out about a person that does and Tony, they're making millions. Yeah. They're making millions, dude. And they straight up admitted that they're fake. They're like, yeah, I don't even do 5-minute ice baths. I do 15 seconds for Instagram.
Right.
And wow. they're just frauds. And what's funny is, like, here I am, I'm 41 years old. I destroy myself in the gym. I destroy myself in the mats. I wake up at 5 a.m. 7 days a week. I do the 5-minute ice baths. I'm exhausted all the time. And I'm like, God, I'm such a phony.
Yeah.
But I think that's the reason why it bothers you, because there's so many people that it's like 2 seconds ago, they were just, falling apart, bankrupt. And then they learn one thing, or they go to one mastermind. And now they're an expert on X, Y, and Z.
Well, it's so easy. I had a guy, I'll give you an example. I got emailed this guy who was average. He had spear system, on his window of his dojo. And somebody asked me, like, is this guy like an authorized, like, is he certainly never heard of him? He's not on your website. So I check it out, and I'm like, I called the guy up and I said, this is many years ago. I said, hey, you teach the spear system? He goes, yes, we do. I said, oh, interesting. I said, is it good? Is it effective? He says, oh, it's one of the best out there. And I'm like, cool. Hey, this is Tony Blauer. I've never heard of you, and you're teaching my system. And he was like, and I go, like, dude, seriously? You got a real school? And you're like, he goes, well, I got your videotapes, and it was really good stuff. I started to teach it, but I was planning on doing the certification. I said, you self-certified yourself. You watched the videotape and self-certified, and you're taking people's money. And it was just, it's insane to me. I just saw a story about a woman, she was posing as a vet, and stolen valor stuff, got caught, but hundreds of thousands of dollars, and sucked people. You go to like, and the world is more insane than it's ever been. I mean, the last 3 years with the weaponization of fear. But let's not talk about that. I want to talk about you, and I want people listening to the show to be inspired by your authenticity. And because you're a motivating guy, you're a neat guy, you're a smart guy. And when you were talking about the book, Where You'll Be in 5 Years, you went, hey, it's pretty easy. It's like even a Marine could read it. I didn't even eat my crayons while I was reading it, and blah, blah, blah. But it got you thinking of questions. And what I was thinking when you said that you made the distinction between the results and the journey, I immediately thought about the semantical difference between motivation and discipline, and how so many of us fuck that up. I'm not motivated today, but motivation gets you out of bed, but it doesn't mean you're going to do shit, because that can wane. So talk a little bit about how you explain the difference between motivation and discipline, because discipline is you getting up every day and getting your shit done is discipline.
And that's one of that, and it's the second pillar of the Agogi. It's the reason why we made it the second pillar of the Agogi, and I'll kind of break that down. Is motivation is and man, if I could tell you, if you look through my DMs of people that wanted to come on board with our coaching group, they're all like, man, I'm not motivated. I'm like, join the fucking club, homie.
Right.
It's a drug. It's like doing a line of cocaine. It's great when you have it,
right,
but it wears off. So when it wears off, then what? So I like to look at it like, let's look at it as if you're a high level athlete or a high level Olympic athlete or a competitor or even a high level businessman. Okay. Top of the world, 1% of the world, right? Making money, achieving success, whether it be physical, Olympic, whatever. So if I look at an Olympic athlete, do you think that they go and train when they're motivated?
Right.
That's not how you get to the Olympics. They're training every day, hurt, injured, unmotivated, tired, exhausted, unrecovered, regardless. There is a discipline aspect that takes over. My nephew's here, and he's talking about he wants to win state. Phenomenal. He's like a phenomenal wrestler. He's a freshman, and he's already competing on a varsity level. Right now, of course, when he goes up against, he's 15. When he goes up against 18-year-old seniors, he gets beat because they're stronger than him.
Right.
But he asked me, he goes, I want to win state. How do I win state? That's a simple process. Every decision you make, does it get you closer to state or further away from state? Everything. The video games, your sleep, the food that you put on your mouth, everything. Your life becomes very simple. But then you have to take it a step further. It's like you have the discipline to do the daily thing. Another thing that I tell people is this. They ask me, Nick, why do you, I ask them, why do you want to join the Agogi? Why do you want to be the very best version of yourself? Oh, if they tell me like, and it's just funny, I just did a reel about this on a podcast. Oh, I want to look good naked. I'm out. Pass. Because that's not good. Like, you're not going to have enough discipline to stick with it because it's self-serving.
Right.
But when guys go, well, listen, man, I'm this weight. I feel this way. I have a son and a daughter. I see the way they look at me. I can't get on the ground to play with them. I'm not leading by example. I want to be the man that I want to become, the type of man that my daughter would marry. I want to be the type of man that my son will turn into. Oh, shit. Now we've got something to work with. That's going to get you out of bed in the morning.
Do you interview applicants or they show up? Okay.
Yeah, we do.
That's good.
I don't want no riffraff, Tony.
That's probably why I was rejected. Thanks. What was your transformation like? Because when I first met you at the first live, well, it was the second time I met you.
Well, we met in 2008 when I was still with Marsoc. Right. Yeah.
Right. So you were in shape then because you were operational.
Team guy, yeah.
Right. But I when I saw you a few years ago in Chino, I mean, you're always big, strong, but you look like, Muhammad Ali later in his career. You could still fight, but you weren't ripped.
Yeah.
And I got a picture of some of your transformation here, right? So you look more like this guy under a shirt, and then now you're in this area. How long was this journey? And how did you get this supermodel to pose with you here? How much did that cost? And,
that's a lot of money.
They're expensive, right?
It's expensive. It's expensive.
But that's a pretty amazing transformation. Talk about that a little.
There's a lot of ownership of my own shit, man. I thought that, okay, let's talk about hard over easy.
Mm-hmm.
I gave that talk at the last project. I give that talk at the Squire program as well. I thought that I could rest on my laurels. I was a team guy. I went through, Marine Corps recruit training. So at the entry level, it's the hardest entry level. I mean, I laugh at it now, but at that level, out of all branches, it's the most difficult. It's the longest and most difficult branch to join. So I did that. And because I'm stupid, I took the long way. It took 5.5 months to get through it, and versus just the normal 12 weeks like everybody else. And then, it wasn't enough. I wanted to go to recon and indoctrination platoon. So that was super hard. That was 3 months of, getting my dick punched every morning. And then I went to amphibious reconnaissance school. Then I went to all these other entry-level schools that you see in special operations. Then SOCOM came about, and I'm like, yep, I'm taking selection for that. So I went to another selection. And then there's other schools on top of that. So I was constantly doing these like very difficult mental, physical, hard things. Well, when you get out, and you've probably been there in your life, you're like, okay, I'm done with this shit. I'm going to just relax. I'm going to do my own thing. Right. I'm going to be easy now. I've done the hard stuff. I'm going to be easy now. Well, the reality is that's a trick. That's a trick. And what I did was I thought that I said, I did all that. Now I'm going to relax and I'm going to live my life. I'm going to relax on my diet. But see, the thing is, it's a creep. You relax in one little area. It's like a cancer. You relax and you take the easy route on one little thing. And that easy thing rolls into the next thing. Then it rolls into your diet. Then it rolls into your training. Then it rolls into your relationship, and it's complacency. So now you're getting complacent in one thing. Next thing you know, you're getting complacent in your relationship, and you're getting complacent as a father, and it just spirals out of control. And now some of that, Tony, was me transition. And you kind of you showed the book a little bit before we started, but a lot of that was also my transition out of the Marine Corps. I'm doing 300 miles for 12 years. Thank you, sir. You're doing 300 miles an hour. All right. And then you get out and you're doing 10 miles an hour, but you got 300 miles of 12 years of baggage. That's all going 300 miles an hour. That just smacks you right in the back of the head. Right.
Right.
And so that's kind of what happened there. I served from 2000 to 2012. I developed some baggage, and it did, honestly, because I never took like a rest time or took a knee or took an instructor billet during that time. I just stayed operational almost the entire 12 years. And then I just got out. Then I was starting having issues and seeing dead people and all kinds of weird stuff, like seeing dead friends, like in groups of people on the side of the road. Very, very bizarre. And now afterwards, it was my brain's way of bringing that stuff up to process it.
Right.
I hadn't dealt with those deaths. I hadn't dealt with, because I just moved on. The mission continued. So I called a friend of mine, and I started kind of telling him like, hey man, some weird shit's going on. He's like, bro, where have you been? He's like, our whole platoon's been dealing with that. You stayed in and kept moving on. So I had to deal with a lot. And a lot of that, the way that I dealt with it in the early days was like, a bottle of Maker's Mark a night.
Wow.
And so of course, drinking heavily, eating shit, sleeping in, taking the easy route, being overly stressed, trying to build a business and not focusing on my personal health and priorities. And it just all spiraled out of control until eventually, suicide was an option. And then, that's in the book. And then, and what really happened was I started to own my shit. Of course, that the supermodel that you saw in the photos, that was a big component of it as well. It's like, oh, if I want to keep this around, I've got to get my shit together. And you and I have talked.
How old's your kid?
Well, I've got 3. I had a 21-year-old girl, a 16-year-old girl, and the little.
I've only seen pictures of the little one.
Yeah, the 2.5-year-old redhead.
Yeah.
I swear he's mine.
But
go ahead.
Yeah, no. I was gonna ask you, like when things got super dark, with what you think is appropriate for a live podcast. What was that moment? Like when you read the book, where you'd be in 5 years, you had an epiphany, fancy word for light bulb moment. You went, oh, fuck, like vision, mission, direction, goals,
Core
right?
values. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it that made you sit up? And then I want to talk about the book, because obviously at some point, like, the book was cathartic, not just a business card. It
Right.
was like getting it out there, and then the 7 stages of the transition. I'm very fascinated with all that. So
Yeah.
if you can extrapolate and answer those 7 questions in one.
So perfect tee up, Tony.
Right.
So the first thing is, when I got to that location, keep in mind, this was years ago, right? So this is a journey, right? None of this happened overnight. The real dark area was me on the beach, and then me thinking about my kids, and not seeing them grow up. And at the time, you hear all these whole things like they'll be better. This, like, the bullshit shit that your brain tells you, that the inner bitch, the inner critic tells you, is ridiculous. They'll be better off without you. Your wife will meet somebody else that will be able to serve them in a higher capacity. You're a weight. You're holding everybody back. It's all lies. It's all absolute lies. And the reality is, and I learned this from a Gold Star mother who was a Ranger that killed himself, and then because of that, she became a counselor, and she gave a talk at one of our transition seminars, and she said, and I believe this too. People that kill themselves, I don't think they want to kill themselves. I think they're just in an immense amount they're exhausted. They're in an immense amount of mental torment. Right. They don't want to die. They just want it to stop.
Right.
They just want that pain they want to break from the pain. So they make a permanent solution off a temporary problem. And and I've gotten a little bit of hate for this, because I talk about how selfish it is. I think it's one of the most selfish things you can do, because your pain doesn't stop.
Right.
It transferred to the people who love you the most. If you're a father, it's transferred to your children. If you have parents still, that pain is transferred to your parents, and they have to live with that pain for the rest of their life. So while you get an escape, right? You take the easy out from your pain. All you're doing is you're pushing your pain on the people who love you the most. And I think that's fucking selfish as shit. I'd never want to do that to my children, man. As a father, that's not what you do. You want to protect them. You want to provide for them. You want to prepare them for this world, right? You want to make them anti-fragile.
Right.
So that was that stage. And that's what hit me. I was like, I don't want to transfer this pain to them. I want to see them grow up. And then that really kind of woke me up to, like, oh wow, I need to be a higher version of myself. And that journey and that's when that journey kind of started.
Amazing. It was the Gold Star mom said something that planted that seed about that, because that's a controversial thing. And I just texted my wife right now, because she's, we know through circles people who've committed suicide, and I'm a romantic coach, always trying to figure out ways to help people. And I'm like, oh man, that's awful. And she's like you, she's going, what a fucking selfish thing to do. Like, how, and I get it. I just think that and maybe this is another conversation another day. And an old friend of mine just brought this up on a last podcast, where a very close family member committed suicide, and it just devastated everybody. And then everyone's left with, what did I do? Like, it's suddenly this huge guilt of, like, did I not return a message or a call? How did I contribute in any way?
How could I have made a difference?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's heavy, and it comes back to, and I do not want to at all hijack this and turn this into the no fear thing, but I really believe that that's the battle. of
Mhm.
that false expectations of being real. I'm visualizing something in the future. And if I cannot figure out how to solve that, that creates that immense anxiety. And if you've got to, man, we can talk for hours on that shit. It's heavy.
I tell them this, man. I'm like, listen, you feel that pain? Like, here's the deal. Here's the reality that nobody wants to talk about. No, there's no fucking special butterflies out there. Like, we all deal with the same shit. I got a whole group. I got hundreds of people that are in our coaching group. And guess what? When I peel the layers back, everybody's like, oh shit, we're all dealing with that. Yeah, man, you're not special. We all have this same stuff. We all share the same insecurities. We all like this morning, family's in town, so I had a real late night. I get up at 5. Alarm clock goes off at 5, right? Fuck. Nick, well, you had a late night. You really need to recover. You're at 41 years old. You can't be going on low sleep and then doing jiu-jitsu 4 times a week hard, lifting 4 times a week hard, working on 4 businesses hard, serving your wife, serving your kids. You can get an extra hour of sleep, right? You can start negotiating. Like, everybody thinks these things. You know what I did? I got up. Why? Because I need to prep for my 2 o'clock. I had to be ready for this. You know what I mean? There's things that I had to do, and otherwise, look at that guy. There's things that I have to do. So I needed that hour this morning to take my notes for my mentorship call. Otherwise, I would have got up, take my daughter to school. He was going to be up. Then I was going to go straight to the gym and train, start my work day, start my meetings, start serving everything would have started. And now I'm flying by the seat of my pants and I'm not living intentionally. Guess what I'm going to have? A stressed anxiety day. So what did I do? And now this whole conversation, which felt like an hour in my head, was probably about 10 seconds.
Right.
But in my head, it was like an hour long negotiating thing. And I said, no, I got to choose hard now and easy later. So I did it. But the thing is, and it's funny, a friend of mine, Kyle Carnahan, you ever come across him? Superhuman Fathers?
Oh yeah.
He's me and him are good friends. He's a freaking psychopath cyborg. And he hits me back today with the same thing. He goes, yeah, man, I was having one of those mornings. Yeah, it just creeped in. And he said that he said something that was funny. He goes, if these are the conversations that you're having inside your head, that just means you're in the sweet spot. That means you're doing the hard work and you're doing the things for growth. You're doing the things, no matter how old you get, you're doing the things. And that goes back to what I'm saying is like, everybody has these same thoughts. Everybody's struggling. Everybody's trying to do this. They're all dealing with some sort of vice. They're all dealing with some sort of addiction. They're all dealing with some sort of anxiety, depression, whatever. But the reality is nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to own it and be vulnerable and say, hey man, this is where I'm at. How do I get better? Until you do. And then all of a sudden the weight comes off.
It's funny because I did this. It was probably in the 90s. I did this 5-hour fear management seminar in New York City, and after the seminar, I got in the cab. I shared a cab back with one of the attendees going to the north side to the hotel, or east side or whatever the hell, and he's sitting there with me in a yellow cab. And you know what this is like, right? Now that you become like a celebrity because of all the shit you're doing, like people meet you and they
I'm like a D or C list.
Right. I was going to say a minor celebrity, but I didn't want to, but it's funny because I'm sure you're starting to get recognized because of social media.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
In the airport, there's 100 people at a gate and going, oh, Nick. And it happens to me like, oh, spear guy. And, but nobody else knows me. It's just one nerd. And, but it's cool and it's fun. And so here I am in this cab, and the guy, he looks at me and he goes, Mr. Blauer, can I ask you a question? And so I turned to him, I go, is my father in the car with me? Like you just said, Mr. Blauer, and I just call me Ninja God or Tony or Coach, and and I always like being called. People would ask me, "What should I call you?" Because of the martial arts thing, and they go, "What should I go?" Like you can call me Tony, you can call me Coach, and I always like Coach because. And I would explain the rationale like this. Like if I asked you what your grade 3 math teacher's name was, hopefully you don't remember, Nick. Like you're like, I have no clue. What about your grade 6 English teacher? Like, I don't know. But if I said to you, what was your phys ed teacher's name in grade 4? You go, I don't know. We just called him Coach. And what about grade 5? What a grade 7? Like, and everybody, and I always loved that. I said, like, all of the people that were the people that were really interested in helping me perform, I always called Coach. And so that just stuck. But anyways, this guy says to me, "Excuse me, Mr. Blauer," and I'm like, "Is my dad in the car?" He goes, "No." We have a little laugh, and I said, "What's your question?" He goes, "What's it like to have no fear?" And I looked at him. I said, I just did a 5-hour fear management talk with you. Like, is that what you were thinking? Like, I have no fear. And this connected to this idea that people think that you're sharing stuff on your mentoring call because you're above it all,
right?
As opposed to, no, I didn't want to get up this morning,
right.
Either. And I looked at the guy and I said to him, I said, "What makes you think I have no fear?" He goes, "Well, that talk, like," and a lot of people, because they hear, let's say, you're a charismatic speaker, I'm very comfortable. And a lot of people unconsciously, and everyone listening to this right now, most of you, unless you've created the stress inoculation through repetition, are afraid of public speaking. So you see us go up and go, blah, 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 giant word, serendipity, big word, pedantic. And we're talking, we're making people laugh, and you don't know what the nerves were backstage. You don't know. I can't tell you how many times before a big talk, this is what happened. Fucking answer, come on, answer. Hell, why didn't you answer? Calling my wife now, babe. I'm freaking out. I forgot my whole talk. I don't know what I'm doing. And she says, "Just start talking. You'll be fine." I go, "No. I really forgot." She goes, "You call me every time there's a big talk and you tell me you're freaking out. Just start talking. You'll be fine." I go, "But this time it's different. This time it's real." Right. and then like, an hour later I call, I go, "That's my best talk ever. I wish."
Yeah. Right. So many times. Exactly. Yeah.
So what I'm sharing and what we're sharing with everyone out there, and it's an important thing, is, and I never realized this when I got into like golf, which was like, I would rather get in a fight with 6 guys than agree not to throw my club and swear on a golf course. The hardest thing I've ever done.
I've never done it.
Right? You don't, right? But I watch the videos and I go, I can do that. I'm a good athlete. Or I watch when I got into rock climbing.
Yeah.
You're watching the videos, like what they never tell you is it took this guy 3 years to climb this route.
Right.
That he fell 3,000 times, and now you're showing his world record climb, and they leave all that shit out.
Yep.
Here's an interesting thing as I continue to hijack the call. When I did my first video series in 1986, Panther Productions. So the martial artists on this, the old school martial artists on this call will know that. I was in Joe Jennings' office, and I had a videotape of us doing our fighting drills. And we had a rule in our system. No, we don't practice pulling. We don't practice missing. And when we do a scenario, we only do 1 rep. We're not doing it over to look good. It's not a John Wick. It's not a choreography. If you headbutted somebody, you headbutted someone. We had helmets on and shit like that, so we didn't get fucked up. We were doing like Fight Club shit in the 80s, but with equipment on, so we didn't destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
So Joe Jennings, who owned Panther Productions, and I'm not going to mention the individual he had on because he's a pretty famous martial artist, but here's a guy that I looked up to. who I thought was a real influencer. They used that terminology back in the 80s, influencer. And he's on there and they're showing his videotape, his next video series coming out. And Joe's at the editing bay with his guy and he goes, let me see take number 9 again. He goes, no, let me see 8. Okay, no. Let's use take number 9. That's where it looks best. And I'm sitting there going, did he say take number 9? You're doing a self-defense video and you got to do 9 takes. And I was like astounded. I didn't say anything. I was smart enough to keep my mouth shut because I didn't have a contract yet.
Yeah.
He finishes that, and this is like some famous guy that you would know his name. And they put my video in, and Jennings watches like 3 fights, and he turns to me, he looks up, he goes, "Holy shit, you guys are really fighting." And I go, yeah. So he books me.
You're like, is there another way? That's what we were supposed to do.
Well, I always tell people, don't confuse technical with tactical. If you're teaching self-defense, it's got to be tactical. Only the result counts, right? In that case, there, but anyways, the part of the point of this for all of us out there who are consumers of expertise is we see the facade. We don't see what's behind it. And then you get this illusion that this is what self-defense looks like when you're really good, not realizing it's coordinated and it's choreographed. Mm-hmm. We get an illusion of the influencer on there with the Lamborghini in the house. We don't know that he rented the car for the day and he rented the house and he's got some silent partners with some bucks or whatever the hell it is. Anyways, I'm off on a crazy tangent. So I want to flip it back to you.
Well, I think the biggest point is like, you just, and I know a lot of people even the people that I look up to, I realize that, and I still look up to them, maybe even more so because of it. They're not special butterflies. They're human beings who have worked really hard to evolve themselves over the years. And I love the whole thing is like, don't compare your chapter 1 to my chapter 15.
That's great.
And that the reality is like, yeah, we're the same. We're dealing with the same shit. I'm just at chapter 15. You're at chapter 1. Just be addicted to the journey.
Right.
You know, walk the yellow brick road, stay on the path. And your path might take you left. It might take you right. But I'll tell you this. And you've had, I think it was like 2009 or 2010 for you. We have things in our life, and this kind of goes into the Excommunicated Warrior book. We have things in our life that happen to us that we think are like the worst things ever, right? Like just there's some really horrible shit that happens, right? And I can think of 3 of those moments in my life in the last 10 years that I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm never recovering from this. The worst thing that's ever happened in my life.
Right.
And now where I'm sitting, I look back at every single one of those, whether it's like, I think you and I talked about it on our, like me getting fired from a job, my first contracting job, you know, people talking bad about me. It doesn't really matter what it is. Those were pivotal moments in my life that because I did not quit. Now, here's the thing. That's the key factor between those hard times. Because I never quit. Now, I might have deviated the route based off where it was leading me, but I never completely gave up. I kept moving forward. Those turned out to be the most influential, pivotal moments in my life. Isn't that wild? The most horrible shit that ever happened to you turns out to be the most influential, important parts of your life. And if it wasn't for those hard things, it wasn't for those horrible events, I wouldn't have had the positive outcome that I have now.
Yeah. And
I know you have a similar story as that as well.
Yeah. And, a bunch of stories where when you're going through it, there is no light at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah. You're like, fuck.
There's no rainbow. You're sitting there.
Yeah, right. There's nothing.
But I think I want to believe that everyone has that in them, that they'll keep going. But a lot of that is, you can see that, and it's almost a like a DNA level warrior essence that you'll keep going. Yes, I'm dead, but there's DNA under my nails and you'll be able to find the bad guy. I kept fighting. And there were a couple of times where, I've had some stuff with some nerve damage that I sustained over the years that has scared the shit out of me as an athlete, where I thought I wasn't going to be, one time I went for a run. I don't know if I ever told you this, like 100 yards from my house, all my fingers went numb. And I literally fell to the ground. My legs had locked up, fingers are numb. I started crying. Right. And for a year, it's been 5 years that I've lifted a weight because of this nerve issue. And where I'd go for a walk with my wife and I'd be saying, hey, could you slow down a little bit? I mean, I was walking like 100-year-old man. Scary shit where you and you contemplate that dark thought of like, I can't live like this. I understand the pain that I'm in. And then anyways, everyone listening, like the message here is this, and it's self-fortitude. And sometimes you need, I don't like the term accountability group, but just a team around you where you go, oh, let's do this together. Even if it's a text message or a Zoom call, we're in this together.
You know what I tell people, Tony? Because I believe in people so much, and sometimes they don't believe in themselves. I think belief is one of our pillars, self-belief. Because like as an athlete, right, or as a competitor, if you don't believe that you can win,
right,
well, you're done.
Right.
You know what I mean? People go in there. Like Kevin Ross was telling me that he was, I don't know if you ever come across him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thai boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just retired, I think last year and a half ago. He would Photoshop the belts that he was going after.
Awesome.
Like, he would paint that up. He would be like, he would just stare at it. He would Photoshop the belts that he was going after. So I think the belief is the same thing. And when you can't believe, I think you can't believe in yourself, borrow somebody else's belief. If somebody believes in you, borrow their belief temporarily. And I tell people in the go-go all the time, like, I believe in you. I believe that you can achieve these things in your relationship and your fitness and your money and all the things that we're building. And if you can't believe it for yourself right now, I'm telling you that I believe in you. So borrow my belief temporarily until we start to win a little bit.
Interesting. Let's do this because we got a couple of comments that I want to share online. This is what one of the things I like about the live thing is people can interact, and I'll pop those up after. Let's talk about your book, but specifically the 7 stages into that, and anything you want to talk about the pillars in your program.
Yeah,
that can help people, folks. A lot of times, and Nick said something interesting where, hey, look, if you look at him, and a lot of people do this. A lot of people out there look at the chapter 15, but that's the Instagram picture, and they see the 6-pack abs and the motorcycle and the hot wife, and immediately I just did a post on this where people look at the photos. And it's like, hey, nice life, or you're so lucky. And I'm like, so lucky, motherfucker. I'm so tired that I've now down-regulated myself to work 7 days a week because I was working 8 days a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes I'll get in people's faces when they do that. I go, listen, you will never be successful if you look at someone else successful and go, oh, he's so lucky. Like there's something in the way you look at that where I'm inspired by. I'm 62 years old. I'm pretty fucking successful. I get fired up talking to people like you. And I think about when I hear how many people are in your program, I start thinking about like, okay, I got to grow my program. It's inspiring. But
when you get to that level, you celebrate other people's wins.
Yeah.
Like I want my friends to win. I want my people to win.
Well, it's funny. I don't know if you remember when you did that video at 4 a.m. about the No Fear program.
Yeah.
And I messaged you. I went like no one's ever done that. People are like worrying about. People are worrying about. Are they going to lose likes or fans or
Who gives a shit?
It's so funny. I've had. I don't want to bitch about it, but I've helped people out in the past, and then they got to a certain level where I went, "Hey man, I'd love to be on your podcast." And like, "Hey, do you have a book yet?" Well, when you get a book, call me. And I'm like, dude, like 5 years ago, when you were crying and about to get divorced, you called me and I talked you off the fucking bridge, and now you're too like, fuck off.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like that mentality is like, it's rough, Tony. It's really rough because I really truly believe there's plenty of good to go around. Like there's so many people in the United States. There's so much money out there. I don't care what the economy's doing. It's a perspective and a mindset. Like I lost a business, but we made the intentional decision to really hit a hockey stick year. I mean, our companies grew more than ever.
Right.
It grew more ever. Why? Because I wasn't paying attention. Like, oh, there's a recession. Not to me.
Right.
I'm not in a recession. Maybe everybody else is, but I just choose not to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a lot of mindset stuff.
Hey guys, while we continue, because I'm going to have Nick talk about his book, the seven stages there and the 4 pillars in his program. It's 4, right?
Yeah.
Is it 4? Okay. But think about questions you're going to have and post them in there, and I'll have them answer them about that stuff. But really think about this, because there's some of the stuff, if your belief system is skewed, something that is a universal truth will sound like it's bullshit because your erroneous belief is skewed. And so how do you weigh and consider, or as Fitzgerald said, how can I hold 2 opposing thoughts in my mind and contemplate both of them? So think about what those questions are, because I know people close to me where I said, all you need to do is do this. And they go, well, that's easy for you to say. And I'll put it as simple as this. Nick bangs out 15 push-ups and you're mad at him because he can do 15 push-ups. The push-ups represents the chapter he's on. And he's going to tell you, can you do 1 push-up? And you go, I can't even do 1. Well, then you start at the bottom and you push up, or you start in a plank and you hold that and you go down. You figure out a way to fucking win. I talk about this. The difference between capacity and potential is capacity is what you can do. Potential is what you'd like to do. One of the biggest flaws we have in our information education system is people think unintentionally or intentionally about their potential all the time. Mm-hmm. And your potential, if you're not a entrepreneurial dreamer, like I would do things where I'd say, Jess, I love this design. Order all these shirts. I'm going to sell out of them at the camp. And then no one buys 1 shirt. Like, I think everything is going to sell out. I think every idea. So I'm like
so optimistic. I'm so optimistic to a fault. I'm right? Like, this is a banger. Everybody's going to like this.
Right. And so I'm the same way. And she laughs at me. She goes, this is going to be another one of your best sellers. I go, this one's going to work.
This one's it.
But the idea here is this, is like, it never occurred to me that I wasn't going to be successful. I just didn't know what I was going to be doing, even when I knew what I was going to be doing.
Exactly.
And so in those dark times, it might have been easier for me. Like, I remember when I had my company stolen from me, and I lost a $12 million a year company, 2010, betrayal, everything. And my wife, Jess, is sitting on the floor crying. We're in Virginia Beach. And she says, what are we going to do? Because we had our green cards. We're, still Canadian citizens. And she says, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I've always wanted to live in California. Let's move there, because if we're going to be homeless, let's be homeless in California. I heard the weather's really good. And she looks up to me but that was my idea. It wasn't like I'm quitting. I'm packing up. I guess this wasn't meant for me. You go through the shit. You're on the ground. You're getting your ass kicked, but you figure out how to fucking, attack, get back in the fight. But anyways, I digress. Let's do a pivot that'll bring us back up here.
Yeah.
talk to me about the book and the transitions, and then jump into into your leadership or personal development program.
So the book really came out as as I exited, I told you I had a pretty rough exit.
Yeah.
Not knowing that I would, I thought that I had it all figured out. I was like, oh, I'm done with the military. Mentally I'm transitioned over as a civilian, so I'm ready to go. Right, that was my world right there. And so, I'm this badass guy, right? I've done some badass things, and now I'm ready to transition, and just going to move on like it's nothing. But here's one of the big issues was, and you'll appreciate this, when you do something for so long, it becomes part of your identity. And you see this in the special operations community, like widespread, right? If I'm a Marine Raider, if I'm not a Marine Raider, who I am. If I'm not a Navy SEAL, who I am. If I'm not, Coach Blauer, the Kung Fu master, right? Like you said, then who am I? You take that away, you take your company away. Who are you, Tony? You know what I mean? And so I think that that was a big portion of it, is like, okay, well, shit, man. Like, if I'm not this guy, right, then who am I? So the first thing, so anyways, and then as I got through my transition and kind of started to figure out who I was as a father, as a husband, as a man, an entrepreneur, like who Nick was at his core, I started to talk about this subject of transition and these 7 stages of transitions that I outlined. And I realized that it wasn't a military issue.
Right.
It was a human being issue. The same guy that got fired at 28 years that's worked for UPS. He's got 2 years to retire. After that 30 years at UPS, he gets shit canned at 28 because they don't want to pay out his pension. He's going through the same thing. The mother who's raised her 3 kids up to graduation, and they're like, oh, thanks, Mom. Deuces.
See ya.
See ya. She's like, I just sacrificed the last 25 years of my life, you little shits. And you just like walk out of the house and don't say a word. Now she's got the whole empty nest syndrome. Like, she was a stay-at-home mom raising her kids, and now what? Now what is she? And it goes on to like law enforcement, firefighters. It doesn't matter what it is. We all go through this chapter in our life to where we make this transition to where we're not doing what we used to do, and it used to be tied to who we were.
Right.
So even though this book is my story, when people read it, when the woman who went through a divorce, right, reads this book, she's like, oh my God, it's like reading my own story. Tony, I cannot tell you how many people have said that from different walks of life. They read this book and they go, I thought I was reading my story. I'm like, this book, the one about me leaving special operations?
Huh. That's great.
Because it's a human being issue. So that's when I went. So the first thing was the Excommunicated Warrior, the 7 stage transition, was a keynote that I was flying around giving all over the United States. And then it became the book once I realized, like, oh, this isn't a veteran issue. This is a human being thing that we all go through. So the first thing, and I'll run through the thing. This is like a 8-hour talk, really, but I'll run through it real quick. The first thing is like the apprehension, like, oh shit, like I'm leaving this thing and I'm going to another thing, right? Like, that's a big step. Making a career change. Holy shit, right? So a little apprehension there. Once you get the apprehension, it's excitement, which is the shortest stage. Fuck yeah. I'm out of the military. I'm doing this thing. I'm moving to California, whatever it may be. I'm doing the damn thing, right? I get excited. But then once that excitement wears off, you get into this whole like bowl of bad emotions. All the stuff that you've been avoiding in your life catches back up with you. Depression, anxiety, all these different things, frustration, anger, it all, like you create this bowl of bad emotions where you're just, guys are pissed off. They're frustrated for what seems to be no apparent reason. And this is where it gets really shitty because you start circling the drain. This is where I started drinking. I was heavily taking SSRIs the VA was giving me. maybe you're struggling with depression because you got canned or whatever, and you go to your doctor and he's giving you Zoloft, he's giving you SSRIs, he's giving you something to deal with anxiety, he's giving you something to sleep, he's giving you Adderall medicine to wake up in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, and doctors are just giving this shit out like it's Skittles.
Right.
You and I know that. And then what happens there is you start circling the drain. So you start circling the drain. And then it comes to a point where this is where we've seen it a lot in recent years. You kind of get to a sink or swim thing where you're either going to off yourself, right? You're going to make the final decision, or you're going to figure out how to swim. This is the key pivotal moment of like, okay, and this is where I was on that beach. I'm like, okay, am I going to call it? Am I going to tap out? Or am I going to fucking swim like everything I got to make it out of this damn thing and to figure out how to get to the side, how to get to a raft, how to get to help or call for help or something. But I've got to swim. And then this is when you make that decision to swim is when you're like, oh shit, I got to put the work in. So showing up, putting in the work, getting vulnerable, being honest, whether it's therapy, whether it's training, whether it's a coach. And for me, I've done all kinds of therapies. I like that your talk about the coach, because a coach is about performance. I highly suggest therapy if you need it. I've done almost every therapy you can think of. You know where I got my biggest results is coaches. You know why? Action-based. Coaches give you tangible things to do. If I call you, Tony, like, I got a problem. You're going to be like, as a coach, we're inherently trying to solve a problem with tangible results. Okay, you got a problem. These are the things you need to do. And then they hold you accountable. Your coaches hold you accountable for the things you got to do. So all of a sudden now I'm doing tangible things. Well, wake up early, motherfucker. Stop eating cheeseburgers. Eat some vegetables and meat. You know what I mean? Are you training? Have you gotten a coach? You got a dietitian? Well, what the fuck, Nick? Like, you're complaining about shit, but you're not actually taking action to do anything. That's when.
I don't know who first said it. I mean, I heard it from one of Bedros's buddies. Action beats anxiety.
Action alleviates anxiety.
Yeah, action alleviates anxiety. But that's a good one. All of you listening out there, man, you start to feel those butterflies in your stomach and your physiology changes. If you're listening to this, you're probably an action man or woman anyhow. And so just get out of your fucking chair or bed, go for a walk, do some push-ups, hit a bag.
Change the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about the sink or swim stage?
Yeah.
And how's your time? I want to be mindful of your time.
I think I'm good.
You have a hard stop at a certain time? We're at 1:00 now, so I just want to.
No, I'm good. You got me here till 4:30 or my time. Yeah.
Okay. So the sink or swim, what I wrote down and made a little note here, that there are people go, okay, am I just going to fucking just give up, tap out, or am I going to swim? There's a lot of people that settle. They go, I don't know what my purpose is. I got nothing I really give a shit about. It was that thing, but I'm fired, or I'm retired, or it's no longer. And is there a part in your philosophy or psychology about the person that says, you know what, I'm just going to get a job flipping burgers? Now, there may be people here who flip burgers. I want to qualify that. I went I was on a trip. My flight was delayed. I was cranky, bad mood. I don't know if this is true, but I'll put it in the story to make it even more dramatic. My bags were lost, right? I don't know that that's true, but I'm in a bad mood. I grab a car. This is way before Uber. I grab a cab, and I'm in the cab, and in the cab, there's like the whole cab is decorated. There's mosaic glued to the walls. There's little tassels on places, pictures of the guy's family, and the guy won't shut up. How you doing? Welcome to our city. By the way, this building over here, it's a historic. And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm going, I just want to get to my hotel. I don't want to fucking talk. And the guy's going on, and he's nice enough. But then it occurred to me at one point that I don't know what it was. I had this thought that this is the best taxi driver in the world. suddenly I was embarrassed at how I was judging, because
Yeah.
it was like, dude, you're a taxi driver. Just fucking like, just get me. And then I realized that this guy had accepted that this is how he's going to provide for his family, and he turned the cab into this fucking museum. It was really, and when I shifted, I was like, look at that, look at this picture here, look at this here. He
Good
spent
word,
time
shift.
decorating that.
Yeah.
He knew every fucking nuance of the city. I got goosebumps right now thinking about it. But it was just that, I was like that asshole who got in and went, man, you only work here. And then it was something I wish I could remember what it was that created that kind of spiritual shift. But what I'm saying is, if we asked him under truth serum or drunk, he might say, I wanted to be a boxer. I could have been a contender, but he just never made it. So he went, got to feed my kids. I can get a cab ride. You know what? I'm going to be the best fucking taxi driver in the world. Anyway, so this is your thoughts on this. That's sink, swim.
I think it's two different things, Tony. One, if this guy's happy doing that, like this is where he wants, like, obviously he took pride in what he was doing, right? That's not so much of like, I don't think that's such a sinking thing. That's not what I would be concerned about. I'd be more like, that guy's happy, appears to be, right? Now, whether he is or not, who knows? Who knows what it really, really feels? But if he's putting that much effort into it, and I've met guys like that, where we have a guy, Dragan, is an immigrant here. He brought his whole family, built a black car service down here in Wilmington. People don't really understand because they get in the car, they're like grumpy from travel. They don't want to talk to him. This guy is talking about the old country. He's talking about what his kids are doing. Like, I absolutely love him, right? Because he's just ecstatic to work. I said, Dragan, when are you going to stop working? He goes, man, I got a daughter in college. I can't ever stop working. I'll be working till the day I die. So for him, it's like, he's super happy. That cab driver is probably super happy. I'm more concerned about the Tony Blauer in the back seat being miserable. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to be miserable. It's okay to have a bad day, but don't build your house there. Mm-hmm. Don't settle and build a tent and live in that misery. Acknowledge, like, okay, I had a bad day. It is what it is. I'm going to make tomorrow a great day. And so many people get stuck in that chapter, right? They get stuck right there. And they build their house around that misery. And they stay there. And you've met those people that are they're constantly a miserable person. And they've never.
And to your point, I mean, I really, my physiology changed when you said that, and you specifically called me out on that, because I do that where I'm so frustrated with the politics and the world and what they're doing to our military, and how they're
men and boys and kids, and
right. And I've got so many friends in law enforcement that you do that.
Yeah.
They're afraid to fucking do shit because they don't know if they're going to be the next poster child on the latest narrative. And I'm angry all the time about that. And it's the self-awareness piece that I talk about in the no fear that evades me sometimes, because I'm putting my energy out into things that I can't control.
Right.
And I got to remember, like, just that, hey, like this is like a black cloud. And I always make this metaphor, like you get a rose bush and you could smell the rose and look at the rose.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or you could bitch at the thorns. You can go, motherfucking thorns. Look at these thorns, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I think so many people get to that place in their life where they're in that that pivot moment, and you can drift into, Napoleon Hill talks about drifting, how you drift into that negative space and and then it turns into this negative snowball, or you can shift. And I like that you use the word shift, because it is a shift, and you're like, okay. Like the other day I got hit with, when you're not healthy, you get hit with anxiety, you get hit with adversity, and it fucks your whole day up. You're like, and the other day, and I've had a couple clients talk to me about, oh man, like this one, Andy Garrison, he just started his own financial management wealth company, and he said, man, before working with you, this one thing would happen and it would just derail everything.
Mm.
And it happened to me the other day. And once you start really, really working on yourself, you're able to shift very quickly. Like, yeah, you acknowledge this happened. So for me, 5 a.m. happened. I got hit with adversity literally within 5 minutes, which normally would like ruin my day. And I had a schedule, I'm on a schedule. I keep a tight schedule, etc. And I just go, let me address this. And I address the issue. Issue's done. Adversity's handled. My day's not ruined. I shifted. And then I hit with another one. And the thing is our ability to be able to shift, our ability to handle adversity is directly related to our ability of growth and self-development. Like the bar's here, we got to operate above the bar.
100%.
You know what I mean? And when you do those sort of things, and when you gain those tools to put in your toolbox to be like the no fear stuff, like I'll plug the no fear all day. Like when you have that in your toolbox and that thing hits you, maybe before a competition, a bully at school, a business deal, whatever it may, getting on stage, whatever it may be, understanding what it is and going, I got the tools in my toolbox to handle this. I acknowledge what it is, and I'm gonna step forward. It changes your whole it's almost to where once you realize that and you can manage that, you don't have bad days anymore.
Yeah. Have you? Do you know my buddy? Have you been on his podcast yet? Marcus Anderson.
No.
He wrote a book called The Gift of Adversity. And I make this. I'll introduce you guys because you guys are a great talk. I always make this joke, you don't have like 2-3 days in a row, good days in a row. And you get up in the morning, you go, things have been great lately. I hope something catastrophic happens today so that I can work on my resilience. And
right, yeah.
But here's the thing for like everyone listening. If I told you, if you want to get in better shape, you got to lift some heavy weights, and that's a form of adversity. But the pain of lifting those weights and the micro tears of the muscle fiber that build back stronger and blah, blah, blah. When you visualize that and you're into that, you go to the gym on purpose and you look forward to that workout and that pump because you understand what that adversity is going to produce. It's the exact same metaphor of, like if that like every time. And it's funny because I'm a confrontation management expert, but I hate confrontations. Right. And so when I have a confrontation in business, it impacts me in a really negative way. Of course. I hate that. I'm like, oh man, I want to sue this guy. Can I wire people with assholes? As opposed to what it would really be if it was a pre-contact cue, if we were downrange and you saw this and this no shoot became a shoot, you've already shot him. Right. If I'm in the street and I see the guy blade and he looks down and I see his fist starting to ball up, I go, oh, he's loading a sucker punch. I'm intercepting that.
Right.
Why can't we do that in relationships? Why can't we? This is rhetorical. Why can't we do that in relationships, in business? This is the pre-contact cue. Don't let it fuck up your day. You call up, you go, have the lawyer send him a cease and desist letter. Let me know how that goes. Bye.
I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, good lesson. Good reminder.
It's the big thing is, and again, Napoleon Hill talked about it in Outwitting the Devil, but it was going from drifting to shifting. That's it.
I like that. I heard that's his best book, and I've never read that one.
Do the audiobook because you get the dialogue between the devil and the interviewer. It's interesting.
Right. And I just heard somebody talking about it. I just actually downloaded the audio. I just haven't started it.
Do you know that what's weird about that? Not weird. It's strangely more accurate today in 2023 than it was when it was written in 1928 or 1911 or something.
Right. It's
over 100 years old. It was so controversial in the early 1900s that his wife said, under no circumstances can you release this book. And they didn't even release it until after she died.
Wild.
So he died, then she died. And then the foundation was like, all right, we're going to release the book. It talks about the government, talks about how fucked up the public school system is. how they use all these, the churches are fucked up, how like all of this is used to get people to fear and to get people to be controlled.
Wow. I'm glad that came up and everyone heard that. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And guys, listen, the whole you're the first responder in your fight, no one's coming to get you. We all need to live that. I mean, just for your family, for yourself, for your mental health. I recently saw something controversial. I forget who was online, talking about, hey, leaders eat last. And he said, no, leaders eat first. Did you see that thing?
No.
It was a spin-on thing going like, and I forget if he was talking about a culture or if it was just this individual's reframe.
Simon Sinek wrote a book about leaders eat last because he spent some time with the military. Yeah.
Right. But this guy was saying like if you're your own bodyguard, our course be your own bodyguard. Mm-hmm. If you're your own bodyguard and you got to protect your wife and your kids and you don't eat, eventually you die.
I have a similar thought process with the Agoge with that, which we'll get to.
Yeah. So jump into the
well, real quick. So sink or swim, that's really about drift or swift. So learning to survive, right?
Yes.
Putting in the work, that's really where the self, like being vulnerable, all that kind of stuff, getting tools, like hiring a coach, investing in yourself, getting the fucking tools that you can to survive and to be what you need to be. And then making it to the top. And I talk about being on the mountain and how hard it is to stay on top of the mountain. And then I've got in the book, it's like the 3 steps to happiness, recipes for success. And I'll leave that if you want to read the book. It's actually super groundbreaking stuff. And I'm being very sarcastic. Those 3 steps to happiness are the most simplest shit you'll ever find in your life. And you'll be like, I can't believe that's the end of the book. But if you execute those 3 things, you will be freaking happy. And that's the reality. But pivoting to the Agoge. So as Josh and as my business partner, who's actually a teammate of mine, years ago, we were sitting on this back porch of this retreat that we ran out in Colorado. And there's no cell service out there. There's no internet. There's no nothing. And Tony, you'd really appreciate this place. It's probably a place you would like to go to more regularly. You can't get there. It's like very difficult to get there.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're sitting out there at the back porch having a cup of coffee, and we're outlining essentially this, like the problems of man, the problems of veterans, the problems that people struggle, and not to outline the problems, but coming up with the solutions of them. Right. Mm-hmm. This was the early days of us establishing the Agoge. And what we came up, fast forward a little bit, we came up with these 4 pillars to help guys and men become the highest version of themselves. Guys are screwed up, right? We've seen society over the last 3-4 decades, just, Simpsons, Homer Simpson's a goof, right? He can't do anything. Right. Family Guy cartoons, Al Bundy, Married with Children. Like Hollywood is continuously depicting that men are just masculinity is bad. They're doofuses. We need women to take charge, et cetera, et cetera. This has all been a very planned thing. You look all the way like the Martin Luther King up until now, 1984 crime bill, like the whole system is purposely taking men out of the family unit and taking their power away to where they can control a community. Because if men were men, if men were high level individuals that communicated with other men, that led from example, were physically fit, it's hard to control men like that. If I take an avatar of like the guy who graduates the Agoge, you can't control him because he thinks for himself. His motives are what's best interest of him and his family and his community. So like the government coming in saying, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. No, you're not, because that doesn't work for me and my family and my community and my business. And if you had a whole community of men that get together that are all saying the same thing, but we're decentralized. They've taken our power away. Purposeful. So anyways, how do we fix this? So first things first, we have what's the number 1 killer in America? It ain't, what? It's obesity and heart disease. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. Do your own research. How the hell did that happen? in the last 30 years, right? So our first pillar of the Agoge is fitness, because we have found that fitness is a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug to confidence. It's a gateway drug to reclaiming your health. It's a gateway drug to your self-esteem. It's a gateway drug to optimizing your hormones. It is just, if a man is physically fit, we have seen a guy that goes from 300 pounds to 200 pounds. All of a sudden, he starts making more money. He has a better relationship with his wife. He's a better father to his kids. It changes everything. And it's all simple. A lot of it is not it's not because he's smarter. He just has higher self-esteem. He has more confidence. Right. When he walks into a room, he commands the room. And
a lot of, I want to throw something in here. Yeah. Of course, because you made the joke earlier about, I want to look good nude. I want to, I want to be body. That can be a byproduct, but you can't get in shape by slacking. It's fucking work. But one of the things that Stephen Kotler and others in the neuroscience community, Andrew Huberman, there's significant black and white research on the neurochemicals and the neurobiology, the effects of exercise on reducing anxiety, but also changing everything in you. So this isn't this should be mandatory. Like, if our government gave a shit, it would be mandatory that everyone worked their ass off, physically, because you would have a way healthier, and it changes divorce, suicide, crime. I mean, it's huge.
Tony, I made a video. Did you see that thing that fitness was linked to white supremacy?
No.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see that yet.
No, I'm surprised you didn't, man. That would have really worked you up. So I made a video about that.
Okay.
I made a video. I did a little solo podcast on that, and I pulled up some different websites and some history, and I said, oh, it's interesting. Fitness is related, the fitness culture started with white supremacy, is what the article was about. And it promotes fitness. The fitness culture promotes racism, really stretching.
Okay. I did see that headline.
Yeah.
But I didn't see your piece.
So I pulled up some ancient Greek stuff. In ancient Greece, it was not only required, but it was your duty to become physically fit. Not only that, but the state sponsored trainers.
Wow.
There were state-sponsored trainers in these training facilities that you could go and get training for wrestling and for different events and lifting weights and calisthenics. They said that it was not just your duty, but a responsibility as a Greek citizen to be physically fit. Now imagine if America did that.
Yeah,
it changes everything.
Wow.
So anyways, physical, like you said, it is a gateway drug to a lot of things. If I have an employee that shows up and he's physically fit, I'm like, okay, well, he's disciplined, he's consistent, he eats right. That means he's going to be consistently showing up to work. He's going to be disciplined in his duties at work, right? There's certain characteristics that carry over. All right. The next pillar would be discipline, and that we kind of talked about that, right? The Olympic athlete trains no matter what. So we want to instill discipline, but it's a kind of a trick. It's a trick with what we do with these guys, because what we do is we outline their top four priorities in life. And then we scale them 1 to 4. Where are you living in your top 4 priorities? And it's funny is money is typically never one of the top 4 priorities, like family, their health, their faith, whatever, it's never, money is typically never one of the top 3 priorities in their life. But then I look at their routine. I say, okay, what time do you wake up? What time do you go to bed? In every 15-minute increment, let me see your daily calendar. So they write it all out. And while they're writing it out, they're just like, oh, fuck, shit, this looks really bad. And I look at it and I look at their 4 priorities, and I'm like, well, either you're a liar or your whole life is fucked up, because these don't align. And typically it's like all work. It's like, well, if this is your top priorities and money's like your number 4 or number 5, why are you spending 90% of your life at work? And well, okay. So what we do is we retune their priority, their routine, to where it is 100% ROI driven around their priorities. Everything in your life has an ROI. If you watch a show, there better be an ROI attached to it. If you eat something, there better be an ROI attached to it. You know what I mean? Everything has a return of investment. And and the reason why it's a trick is because we give them a new routine, and it creates discipline and consistency in their life. And when they do the discipline and they're consistent, they start getting results.
Mm-hmm.
So within a couple of weeks, they're like, Nick, holy shit, my life, this program is amazing. My life is better. My conversations, I feel better. I look better. I look better in the mirror, naked in my bathroom. I'm like, it's been 3 weeks, bud. You don't look different. But at that dopamine hit that you were talking about, right? They feel better. They feel more confident. We're changing the chemistry in their brain. The third pillar is belief. And this is where, you ever heard of the elephant, the rope and the stick story?
That doesn't ring a bell, though. Tell me.
So the elephant, rope, and the stick. In foreign countries like in India and Thailand, this is how you train, or a circus, how you train an elephant. You take a baby elephant, tie a rope around its neck, put a stake in the ground. And as that elephant grows up, they just increase the length of the rope. Now you have the largest, strongest walking mammal on this planet tricked into believing it is where it is.
Mm.
It's its belief. It believes that as long as that rope is around its neck and that stake is in the ground, it is stuck right there. Now, you and I looking at it going, that's fucking scary, man. That elephant could just run off and trample and kill a bunch of people and do it. That elephant doesn't know that. Its perspective is, its belief is, it is where it is. Now, what it represents to me is that elephant is like men in this country. They believe that because they're raised a certain way or they come from a certain financial structure that they can only achieve a certain level of money. Or the thing that I like to hear, well, our family's big boned. I can never, we're just a big bone people. Well, motherfucker, I've never seen a big bone skeleton in my life. So I don't know where you get that from.
Right.
It's false. I can never have the hot girl. These are all self-belief, the self-preserved, created beliefs. Now, what that rope and that stick represents are three things. Everything that you've been told in your life, everything that you've experienced in your life, and the traumas that you've had. These things create limiting beliefs that put a glass ceiling on your life. So for me to get you to achieve greatness, I have to shatter that glass ceiling. I have to change your perspective to where you can see past those things. We have to remove those limiting beliefs. And how we do that is our 8 mentorship calls a month. Like twice a week, we meet with the whole Agoge and we deliver mentorship on and we talk about these subjects to create high-level thought leaders. I want to challenge them. I want to change your perspective on life. So it's not all about fitness. That's a foundational thing. We have to lay that foundation. You got to be physically fit. So it's a requirement. It's a baseline requirement. After that, now we get into this work. Most people don't have a nutrition and fitness problem. They have a discipline and mindset issue. They have a belief issue. And then the fourth pillar is, and I won't say what it is, but the fourth pillar is your why. Why do you want to become the very best version of yourself? And the reason why I say that is this. If I tell you, Tony, you're going to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and you're going to go out in the garage when it's 120 degrees and you're going to do 200 burpees for time every morning at 4 a.m. If your why is to look good naked, you're asking getting out of bed at 4 a.m. But if your why is because I have a daughter and I want her to marry a man worthy of her, and I need to set that example, I can't be the 300-pound lazy sack of shit, that's going to get you up out of bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So our why is that. And to go back to your point, it's the whole oxygen mask on a plane. If I am not the leaders eat first. If I am not the best version of myself, how the fuck can I lead my family? If I am not physically fit, if I don't train jiu-jitsu, if I don't throw fucking hands, when shit goes down range, am I an asset to my family or am I a liability? if my wealth is not on point and shit hits the fan, how can I provide for my family? I have to be the highest caliber version of myself, not for me, for the people that I love, for the people that rely on me. And that's why we have the pillars that we do.
I love it, man. Very, very, very fundamental stuff. And it's interesting. A lot of people don't appreciate the movie in our mind, that I talk about in the no fear stuff. Like that's that conversation you have, and you realize that you join a group like Nick's, or you join our group, or you're listening to No Fear.
Join them all.
But what I'm saying is there's still a conversation we have with ourselves that we need to tame and direct, because there's, on a regular basis, like if you meditate, your fucking brain's insane. You try to do some brain, if you ever try to track the erratic, non sequitur thoughts. But what I want to remind everyone listening, and I mean, this stuff, but just sharing for the audience listening, is this idea that when you're in the fear loop, or when you're distracted, or when you're avoiding anything, it's because there's a conscious or unconscious dominating thought that is influencing your behavior. And only self-awareness allows you to first catch yourself, and then it's critical thinking. But the critical thinking piece is also part of the discipline piece that Nick is philosophizing about. And it's all intertwined, folks. And a lot of people don't relate to when I say, well, you're in the fear loop, because, in your, in part of your talk, you talked about like being, to find the power in vulnerability. If you can identify some actual or potential Achilles heels in all of your armor, of wherever that armor is. Like I remember reading like some old samurai book years ago, and there's a quote in there: "The true warrior seeks weakness." And I remember thinking about it, going like, duh, of course, I'm looking for your Achilles heel. And it wasn't until much later I realized, oh, he's talking about himself.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Your
right?
weakness. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's that whole thing where, the mind navigates the body,
right.
And but very interesting shit, man. Very interesting stuff. Let me scan here and see if there's any cool questions for us, because it's already 1:30. A lot of the comments I got here, we have people from all over the world watching, but a lot of the people are just like digging the conversation, looking here, seeing if there's any, like this gentleman, Michael wrote, thoroughly enjoyed the podcast. Sometimes the most common sense of life situations needs to be explained to become common. One of the things that I like to add, Michael, to that, and Nick, I don't know if you ever heard me say this, that what we want to try and do is discover uncommon sense. The magic of uncommon sense is that as soon as you hear it, it fucking hits you in the head, and you're like, why didn't I think of that before?
I should have known that. I do know that.
Known that.
Yeah.
And a really good trainer, coach, mentor, intuitively or deliberately will create uncommon sense epiphanies, like the fitness one. Like there's so many leadership programs out there that have zero fitness attribute to them. And we know this. I didn't know that about the ancient Greeks and stuff like that. It doesn't surprise me when you said it. That was an uncommon sense realization. Well, of course, duh. Like look at those. And it wasn't just that they fought all the time. they figured out
foundational. It was just a foundation of it was an expectation of duty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, is there anything, there weren't any real questions, I just scanned through them. Is there anything that you wish I had asked you, or that we had talked about, that you want to share?
No, this was solid. We got into some good stuff.
Yeah.
Share this podcast. Share it with your friends. Smack them in the face with it.
It's subtle. You know what? It's funny because I messaged my wife during this. I think I mentioned earlier. She said, "Hey, send me the link." I said, "There's some stuff in here you're gonna want to hear." I'm gonna send it to my son, who's a coach up in LA, and because there's stuff in it that everyone needs to hear. So yeah, please share the shit out of it. What's the best place to reach you? And I know Lisa's got some links.
Yeah, you can go to that right there. So right there.
Right at the
Yeah. At Nick Koumalatsos. Yeah, there we
There
go.
we go.
Find me. And I'll respond. And if you want to get into the Agogi, let me know. And that's it. Simple, man. We're simple.
Dude. We will what's your best your main website with all of your businesses is just your name, right?
It's just my name. Yeah, nickkoumalatsos.com. The agogi.com will get you there. And go get yourself some Johnny Slicks. Use code Raider. Go get yourself some soap.
Do it.
Soap salesman, Tony.
Work out and wash. What are your four businesses?
So I've got I got Johnny Slicks, the Agogi. It's Johnny Slicks is all organic men's grooming. I got the Agogi. Then I've got Crest BJJ, and then I'm also a managing partner of Core Medical Group, which is an HRT clinic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Stay busy, Tony.
Dude, I apparently, man, I want to say this. Like, I know a lot of people, and a lot of people talk about stuff, and they're smart and they're good. When I hear you emoting and talking about all of the stuff that, like I talk about similar things, and I'm not going to list 100 other people that talk about similar things. There's a grounded element of authenticity in you, in what you say, and it comes back to it's not that, well, I was a Marine. Usually it was like you went through it. You went through the stuff. You built the stuff.
And I daily live it. I think that's the biggest thing is like if you lived a life that you're talking about, and I do, man. I the shit that I talk about, I live. It's my life. I think that's one of the big difference. And that's the reason why you can spot the bravado and the bullshit, or you feel like, this is not exactly right, But when you live the life yourself, you live what you're preaching, it adds a different layer to it.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Okay, gang. We're going to wrap this up. Go to Nick's site, check out all the stuff, share the shit out of this. People need to hear this stuff. His website's up there on the banner there. It's just his name.com. Yep. And get his book. Love the title of it. Just dude, it was an honor to have you on here, and you're welcome back anytime you have anything to talk about.
Tony, thanks. I guess I'll see you pretty soon, right?
Yes, sir. In April?
Are you going to April? Yeah, I'll be out there in April 1, and then I'll be there for June for the project, and I'll be back in there for July for Squire.
Yeah. Anytime you're in this area, like hit me up, and we'll get together aside from that.
Cool.
Dude, so good to connect and share your story and your mission with my audience. This is gonna go out, aside from the live stuff, on a bunch of channels. Of course, we share it again on Spotify and Apple, and those who I never ask people to do this stuff because we don't have any official sponsors. But go in there and give it a 1-star rating and say this sucked. Just kidding. If you do that, I will spear you in the face. Okay, be safe, everybody. Nick, thank you so much, man. Stay safe. Thanks. And I'll see you soon.